long time ago that the book I was going to write was called Inside the Divine Pattern. And the night of September 10th, I had taken all of my writings that I put on Word, and I was now transferring them to Front Page 2000 on the night of September 10th, so that I could start building that site and get that released. And then September 11th would not quite go as I planned. Okay, we're now going into part 2, which is 11 dominates 9/11. There's 3 chapters on 9/11. 9/11 is called the day the world changed, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. So, that horrible, horrible day, September 11, 2001. I was up really early that day. I was working in the office way before 7 o'clock. I think it was about 6:15, 6:30. And I was building my new site for my writings. I'd already the night before downloaded all that onto my front page. The household was in a high state of anxiety. My father was in critical condition in the Vancouver hospital. And Anthony, my son, could not sleep that night and was in severe pain, writhing on the floor. And Maureen was getting ready to take him to the hospital on the morning of September 11th. Then, just completely out of the blue, Maureen shouted out with a concerned voice, "Tony, you better come and see this." My office was on the main level in my house, and the TV room was right beside my office on the main floor. Her tone sent me quickly to the den. CNN was broadcasting live. I don't know how you guys wake up in the morning, but we usually have if I'm not working or she's not working, we'll have CNN on in the morning around the. And CNN was broadcasting live, and apparently a plane had struck the World Trade Center, causing a fire. Didn't look at it that big a deal. Thought a small plane crashed into the World Trade Center, and but watched it because I was curious. I knew some souls had lost their lives, and continued to watch. Moments later, we watched another plane crash. Now this would be about 8:45, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We watched another plane crash into the second tower, and I knew at that instant that we were witnessing an attack on the US live on television. The buildings were targets, and the planes were bombs, and I was in shock. Shock turned to reality after we said, "Oh my God," several times. I remember just saying, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." I began to feel the pain and the sorrow of the many souls that were taken so quickly. It's easy to get caught up in the event, and it didn't come till later that I realized that many, many souls were perished at that particular moment, and it was sad to watch. I noted the day. I mean, I couldn't help but note the day. It was the 11th. I had just spent 5 years studying the number 11. And I also reflected on our recent visits to New York and date and timing. My wife Maureen had just been in New York, and while I was at a film conference, she took it upon herself to go to the Empire State Building by herself. She was going to go to the Twin Towers, so too far away. And I had been in Washington just a month before. We watched for a while. Anthony was still in severe pain. But because of the enormity of the event that we were watching, I think Anthony lost a bit of his pain and continued to watch. But Maureen and him left for the hospital, and he was gone for 10 hours. When they came back late that night of September 11th, I was told that Anthony would have to have one of his kidneys wasn't functioning, and he'd have to have it removed. Now it's 10 a.m., I'm all alone. And I saw the number 11 in the Twin Towers. I was looking at the towers before they fell, and I thought, okay, this is the 11th. These towers look side by side like the number 11. I instantly felt connected. I felt it was an attack against humanity, and I took it personally. I felt the historic significance of the event, and I decided that that particular moment in our history needed to be archived. So for the next 24 hours, I digitally recorded thousands of photos, images, and live website captures. This day would take me on a one-year journey of recording and sharing the day the world changed. I archived the complete event of 9/11 in a short period of time, which ended up taking me a long period of time, because I thought it needed to be archived, and I wondered if anybody else had done that, which they didn't. Chapter 5, 11's Unleashed. On September 12th, 01, the day after 9/11, I registered the name september11news.com right there, and I began building the website. I could see a pattern of 11s. I started studying this event with ferocity, and I recognized a distinct pattern of 11s. Even my daughter Natalie sent me an email on September 12th, because obviously she's aware of what's going on with the 11s, and said, "Dad, did you notice all the 11s surrounding September 11th?" And of course I did. And those, at that time, they were just outlining a few key 11s. The first plane to strike was plane number 11, the 11. There were 92 people on board, etc. It appeared to me that the attackers used the power of 11 in a negative way. Remember, I told you at the beginning of this lecture that numbers can be used. Numbers have a power. Prime numbers have more power than other numbers. Master numbers have more power than other numbers. And the 1111 is one of the reasons it's a very powerful number is because it's a mirror image of itself. The same way as yin and yang, and evil and good, and left and right, and up and down, and left eye, right eye. There's duality in everything in the planet and everything that exists. There's this sense of duality in things. And it's the same with the number 11. The number 11 has an energy, it has a force. And that's why I said I'm absolutely convinced that NASA used the power of 11 in a positive way to ensure that the Apollo missions were successful. I believe the attackers used the power of 11 in a negative way, or a mysterious pattern was revealed. Either scenario was profound. 9/11/01 vibrated with 11s. There were over 40 connections. They're all in my book, and they're also in the website that I created called September 11 News. There are over 40 connections to the number 11 listed on this site. On site, this is not a coincidence. I developed a web page called Mysteries, the number 11. There are 55 sections. It's a huge, huge site, September 11 News. And the number 3 site was people curious about this number 11. In fact, it was a very close second. The number 1, by the way, was the attack. There were 11s everywhere. The dates had 11. The World Trade Center attacks in New York City had 11. The Pentagon attacks in Washington were covered in 11. And all of the people and places around 9/11 were all layered with the number 11. I don't want to get into the specificity of this right now, but it's in the book. It's at my website. It is uncanny. The 11s continue after 9/11. You may be familiar with the terrorists that bombed Madrid, Spain. They bombed 10 trains. They found out later there were 11 trains bombed. The bombs